You're back with Beck and Zach, and we are on a journey to understand more of what we can about peace. And I loved our conversation last time, and we talked about the first step toward peace really being humility and not low ego or woe is me, but that absolute honesty, good, bad, ugly. You're allowed to know me. I'm allowed to acknowledge what's inside myself, and that a good catalyst for that is really considering our fears and to be honest with ourselves about what we're afraid of. And not just that first question, but what's deeper under that. It was so powerful. If you haven't had a chance to listen, I would encourage you to go back and start from the beginning. But I would love to hear, as you've journeyed around the world with so many diverse people, what do you consider to be that next step toward peace?
Yeah, it's never a step you want to take, or
just turn it off now.
Yeah, but the next step has to be grief and tears, and my whole season of life where I had the least amount of peace, I didn't cry for at least 10 years. There's nothing I could experience would make me cry. And I know that was obviously coming from my background. It was, you're a man, you don't cry, but man, I was a wreck. I was completely getting destroyed by life. And eventually you just can't sustain that. And I burst at some point down the line. It's almost, when you're walking, you take the first step, you be humble and honest, like about your life and who you are. And as soon as you take that, the other leg wants to follow. And like, I've been in so many rooms and in my own life, as soon as I started to actually be honest with myself about my life and what's been going on and all that, I just burst into tears. And I see it everywhere in the world. Even within the first 30 minutes of a peace camp with enemies in a room, in a war zone or in something, as soon as someone says something honest, almost always the tears start to flow. And if you hold those in, it will come out in an unhealthy way somewhere. Sure. But if we can learn to be people who let our tears flow and in our honesty allow the pain that we've been through to come out through not just tears for myself and my own journey, but crying with others. You want to reconcile with someone, but you haven't actually let their pain be yours. You're too busy saying, no, they're wrong, and Well,
let's consider that because you've been in a lot of rooms.
Yeah.
And I imagine there has been a moment where someone says something that you can almost feel the pain physically yourself.
Yeah.
What was a moment for you that just was unthinkable pain that came and surprised you, but was the key to unlock your heart and what you needed to understand in being in that room?
Yeah. I could think of hundreds of examples, but I'm careful because other people's grief maybe isn't my story to tell, but Absolutely. I just think of being in rooms with Syrian refugees in Turkey, and they just, for the first time in their lives, talk about how they were tortured for 4 months in jail and with electricity, and you're the person's right there and they just weep. And you, I don't know, it hits you and you're there and you just weep with them, and something beautiful unfolds. A healing starts to come that couldn't have come until the tears, And I always think about that. Why the heck do we cry? I don't think we have really any, I don't know if biologists really can explain that. Why the heck do we cry? But we do. And if we're designed, then there's a design to that. There's something, an outlet for our pain that is actually not destructive to others. It doesn't lead you to addiction and hurting others. It's actually a way for it to come out of us beautifully. And so I think of that. I think of the ache of broken families. Just a very short moment ago, I just was crying with someone who just was aching for their son and their daughter and son-in-law, and because their marriage is breaking right now as parents, and there's just something that has to happen before you get on to the path to what do we do in this broken situation. First, we got to be honest and let the pain be processed, because otherwise that pain will corrupt everything you try to touch.
I have a question about that because, and you know, I think part of it has to do with my faith, really. Sometimes I've carried this idea that to be strong, you have to push on.
Yeah.
And I've had a moment where I realized, like you're saying, this is coming out of me in an unhealthy way.
Yeah.
Like I almost visualized it like a wound, right? Like, and it's gotten infected because I just saw it, cover it up, it'll be fine, keep going. But that ooze is stinky and gross and drips on people, really, through anger or through conflict or unfair comments. And I had that moment like, oh, I've got to deal with this. Like, what do you observe when people don't deal with it? What happens? And how do you overcome that idea that, like, strength and grief? Like, because at some point you have to have both. And grief's scary. Like, it feels like a deep, dark hole. Will I ever get out of it? So how do you navigate those things?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between pain and grief. Pain is one aspect. You can cry when you're in pain. But grief is usually defined as you've lost someone, and usually defined by death, a loss of someone. And there's an amazing song by Stephen Wilson Jr. that says, grief is only love that's got no place to go. And I find that has really hit me, of like this beautiful transforming grief into realizing it's actually love that I'm feeling that just doesn't have an outlet. And I can't give that love to that person anymore because they're gone. And so we use the word grief a little bit more loosely than that, than just loss of life. We can grieve a lot of things, but it's usually a loss. And then how do you come to terms with that and lay that to rest? I think when it's pain, there's lots of pain. You can have pain between work colleagues and things, and it's like, oh, that hurt. And you still might need to cry. You need to deal with it, but it's not a loss or a deep, hopefully it could become deep, but if you don't deal with it, but the little cut can kill you if it gets infected. But when I think of when one of my best friends was killed, and his name's Jose, and he was killed in a shooting at his work. His workmate came one day, decided, I'm going to kill everyone, and then killed himself. And when I heard the news of that, I burst into like a groan of ache, like just for about 5 minutes or so, just no. And then someone was coming up, I was meeting someone. So then I pulled it all together, and I didn't feel anything for about 3 weeks. I knew I've just been shaken, but I couldn't feel, no tears came, nothing for 3 weeks. I was numb until I had to make the eulogy, and it was COVID times. I couldn't get back, and his mom sees me as her second son, and she's begging me to come, but the Australian government won't let me out. So it's such a painful situation, but it was actually in having to make a video. As soon as the camera was on, I couldn't speak. And I just cried and cried and cried. And it was just, I unlocked. It took me about an hour before I could say this 5-minute thing I was going to say. But it was so healing. It was so what I needed. But then I had no control after that of when the tears come and when they don't. And it often was when I would wash dishes. I have no idea why, but I would, boom, think about Jose. I would, for about a year. And it was at random. I didn't know when to cry, but when it happened, I let it go, let it out. And so I say that to say, for some people, if you're talking about pain, we need to get the tears out and do that. And that can happen quickly. When it's deeper than that, when it's grief and things, we need to have grace for ourselves that it will take as long as it takes. And I'm not always in control of when my body and my brain decides I need to release this. And it is like a washing of a wound. It's cleaning it so it doesn't stay infected. Yeah, but I will say there's a little bit of a caveat to that of it's only healing if you've done the first step in the last episode. It's only healing when you're honest and walking in humility and you're looking honestly at everything. If you're not, it is a endless spiral of self-pity. I've seen lots of people, they cry and cry and cry and cry, and they're getting worse the more they cry, because it's not built out of a place of honesty and truth. It's built out of a story they've told themselves that continues to like reinforce itself. And so that's an interesting dynamic to unpack, because sometimes it's hard to tell which one's which, and how do you walk that out with someone? And how do I enter into someone's pain and not get hurt myself, or how do we do that? There's a reason why we don't like to go to funerals. Because we don't want to feel pain and things. So
So in those rooms where you're dealing with conflict over a certain amount of time, right? Because part of this is like, how do I do this in my life as I grow? And we're talking about the fact that it is a lifelong journey toward peace.
Yeah.
When you're in the room, what are some of the things that get in the way of that process of crying or tears or dealing with pain?
Yeah. I mean, some of it is people aren't willing to be honest yet. Like, you get particular people in a room and there's been a massacre or a bombing or just racism, just straight up, this group hates that group. And that can take a little while for people to be comfortable enough and feel safe enough in that room to actually be a bit more honest and not just put on the face of, well, this is my people and this is what we say. And that can be a hindrance. The other is depending on the culture. Every culture is different, but tears can feel like a burden to others. So you'll hold them back and hide them and try to bottle it when it really needs to just be let out. And the other side of that is that others are uncomfortable with the tears. So they either try to clean it up or like try to, offer them tissues, like,
would you say that sometimes we try and stop one another's pain too quickly?
Yeah. And it, particularly in this moment, if it's not a self-pity spiral, right? Whatever, if it's real, a burst of tears of healing coming, we have, if you haven't done it yourself, you don't know what to do. You'd have no idea because you don't even cry yourself. But if you can just sit with that person and let them cry, and as much as you can, you don't have to make yourself cry. You can't, but to just let it be raw, and don't try to clean it up. Don't try to comfort them too quickly. This is where a lot of this journey we're on is actually coming from the blessings that Jesus offers in the New Testament of these blessings. And the blessing when you cry is it says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for there will be someone next to you." And normally the Bible translates that to say you'll be comforted, because the assumption is you'll be comforted if someone's next to you. But it's so powerful for us to realize there's a blessing and a promise that if you cry, you won't be alone. And I have never been in a room where someone cries, even when their enemies are there, and their enemies don't come beside them and come and like be with them in that moment. And usually tears are actually what unlocks the hearts of everyone else in the situation. And so it takes a lot of courage. I would say some of the most brave people are the ones who cry first in these rooms, and because it's an opening of vulnerability. And a letting in, and as soon as one person does it, you just watch the tears flow in others, and it's like you feel the whole room move deeper with each other, and something shifts when we cry together or sit with someone while they're crying, and so it's hard to put words to, but it's a way richer level of relationship.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So how can we be good comforters then, like on the other side of that?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you when you're hearing these? I mean, you just kind of highlighted over some painful.
Yeah.
I don't want to compare pain, but it seems way more painful
Yeah.
than anything I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
How do you exist as the comforter?
Yeah. Well, I think it's unhelpful to label yourself that, because the moment you think you're the comforter, you're probably the least comforting person in the room. And I'm like,
but you know what I'm asking, right? Like, how do you sit on the other side of that well?
I think you have to do it yourself first. You have to cry your own tears of all your pain and be someone who's done that already. There's a quote from a guy, Takashi Nagai. He survived the Nagasaki bombing in Japan. He's an unbelievable man and peacemaker, and he called for forgiveness, and he, in his dying of leukemia, just spent his life loving people. And he has a quote. He says, "Unless tears have shot out from your eyes in pain and in grief, you cannot wipe the tears of another person." And I think he's right. And if you haven't done it yourself, you just can't be a comfort. You might be a distraction to them. You can go distract them when they're crying, but you don't know how to actually help them go there. And I think it's about being comfortable with and not trying to fix, and not seeing tears as a problem, but actually as a gift of healing. And so
you mentioned something about yourself that perhaps as a man and culturally, this was an issue for you. And I realize that we have many different backgrounds that could be listening to this.
Yeah.
But do you see any common cultural or gender themes that might need to be overcome for people?
Yeah, I mean, it is a big topic. I go to some communities. I've so blessed with some Aboriginal friends and Indigenous friends. They say they cry until they stop. And it might be months, and it's as long as it takes. There's certain cultures, and it's very uncomfortable to me to be at a funeral like that, because they wail and weep, and they do and that's their way. And you could go, is it healthy or not? I don't know. It's their way. And then you see like a Jewish culture. I'm pretty sure, I don't want to misquote this, but I understand some layer of in Middle Eastern culture and maybe Jewish culture is the family. If someone dies, you don't even move for like 7 days. You just sit in your house and cry together. And the whole community gives you food, looks after you. They all know their place. They know what they need to do. And you just sit there. And then I think it's another month that you don't have to work, but you move into less weeping and more kind of, you start to laugh about your grandfather, and you remember the good stories too. It's just like you move into a place, and then at a certain point, then you start to get back to life. But in the West, it's so individualized, and we quickly bury, and within 1 week, done. We have no other stages.
Yeah.
Beyond that, and that's a really stressful week anyways. I mean, you got to sort out all the
logistics
stuff, and that's on you as a family. Not your neighbors aren't going to do it for you. But I can see why we can get really stuck in grief that maybe it was years ago, but it's still not fully processed, because we got to keep working, we got to keep going, and nobody's going to help me with this, and so and sometimes that's our coping mechanism, is just stay busy and just put your head down, but it catches up with you. It causes a lot of damage when we haven't allowed ourselves the full process of healing, of letting the tears flow. And so
I'm thinking, what I hear you saying is that there's real power in not just our own grief process and processing or pain process. I don't want to be too loose with grief, but processing pain, mourning, grief. But it's not just about me doing that. It's about doing it with someone else.
Yeah.
And, you and I both have been involved in a lot of projects that are designed or intended to bring flourishing.
Yep.
And a lot of times they're kind of focused on really positive things.
Yeah.
And I
very
don't
positive.
think that like pain is the first thing that we encounter.
Yeah.
But when we do, like, you don't have to look very hard to find it either.
Yep.
And so what I hear you saying is that there's this posture toward including that
Yeah.
in our relationships
Yep.
that we have. Why do you think that's so important? And what have you observed that makes that so close to your heart?
Yeah. I think, the healing that's available in your own tears is also available to others if you want to give it. And when I've been in places where you can list 1,000 things wrong in their life, in their economy, in their relationships, in their government, and it's so tempting to look at all the fixes and go, well, we could do that, we could do that, we could do that. But it's like the sitting down and just being in the pain with them and letting them express their story and their pain and what's impacting their life has often been the place where all the beautiful breakthroughs in their community happen. The whole journey of these steps is that we all want to skip ahead and we want to get to the fun stuff, the stuff where you're seeing breakthroughs and when you're engaged in just the right thing at the right time, and that made the difference for this community or this person. And that's the main complaint of anyone who's in grief is when someone tries to fix the thing. It's like, oh, please, can you stop visiting me? Because you just want to clean me up. And I really just want someone to be with me in the midst of this pain. And
is that a real thing? Like, if I have pain and I share it with you, like, what's the transaction that happens between us?
Well, it's actually, as far as I understand, I'm not a brain scientist, but I've read a few things about it, is one of the most powerful dynamics in our brain is called attachment. And it's attaching to someone else to say, you are my people, to say it's love. Well, you'd use that term, like, who do you love and who do you identify with? Say, that's my people. And obviously that's really strong in some parts of the world as a tribal framework, but it's also obviously in marriage and every relationship. And the strength of attachment in your brain, the more attached you are to someone else, the better your brain is able to function. It has it's like glue between the compartments of the brain. And so your brain is able to actually face lots of pain, lots of challenges, and still be resilient and keep going. It's not the only aspect. Obviously, the brain's more complex, but I heard it said that it's attachment is when your pain is my pain and my pain is your pain, and we share our pain with each other and hold it together. And we don't say, well, you'll be fine. You'll get through this. No, I say, we're going to figure this out. We're going to get through this. In that sense of, I'm with you to go forward, not you're on your own, but pat on the shoulder, pat on the head or whatever. Like, it's like a different dynamic that develops, but it only comes through sharing pain. You cannot attach to someone who you haven't shared your pain with and they haven't shared their pain with you.
Have you ever seen in these rooms where there is deep conflict, someone share that pain and be rejected?
Definitely not blatantly rejected. I think something about tears, even a soldier, a warrior, like militant, it pierces through. It does something. It's very hard when a grandmother from their area cries about her children being killed. It just it often, not everyone, some are really hard, but almost even the hardest person I've seen, it gets gets through their defenses. And I think I haven't seen it rejected, but I have seen some people unable to hold the other person's pain. So they watch her cry and they know it's sad and they know it's horrible, but they don't feel anything. Because they haven't done the journey yet. They haven't unlocked their own tears. Maybe that person could help them get there, but sometimes it's just, I can't feel it. And but I do see when people are still in a really broken state from a distance, when they're not in a room with each other and they see their enemy cry, they might rejoice, but they also they hate it because it feels like an accusation and attack back on them. So you silence usually anyone, your enemy, your work colleague who you're so sure is so wrong, and you want to beat them, you want to win the argument, or you want to win the battle for whatever. You will never let yourself hear what their pain is, because as soon as you hear that, you have to change your perspective, and maybe it's not actually about winning anymore. Maybe another connection with the brain is that a friend of mine working in that, he said, your brain's either trying to attach or it's trying to win. And you can't do it either. You just either are doing one or the other. And when you're trying to win, just throw out this whole podcast. You're never going to get anywhere. You're not going to have peace. But if you can turn to this, my objective is actually to have better connections and attachment and relationships with everyone. Everything shifts. You go from being a predator who's trying to win and defeat someone to actually we are trying to heal.
I think what you're hitting on is something that, and we talked about it last time, but I think it's just being reinforced for me. Like, I've always thought of peace more as a state of mind within myself, and like this place to exist, or this feeling to get. And like more and more, it seems like it can't exist without, it can for a moment when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
But because I live in a family and I work in a community, like all these things, it has to be attached to relationship.
Yeah.
And that's a longer journey.
Yeah.
And it takes more time. So for someone that's kind of, all those things are good. I love my walk outside with feeling the dirt on my feet. I love my gardening. I love my meditation. All those things are important to me. But for someone like me that's going, okay, what's that next step toward peace?
Yeah.
How would you tell them to put this into practice? What's one step that they could take?
I think following along with the first step, you can do this on your own. With God, there's a place for that. Sometimes people use journaling because it's no one else is going to read this, and it allows you to go into yourself and express yourself in ways you would never in conversation or in any open public forum. But so those are possible outlets, but I do think there's something in intentionally sharing your pain with someone else, having somebody that would just come and listen. And I don't know which one comes first or not. I'm talking about doing it for others and talking about doing it for yourself.
Sure.
I think what broke me through into my pain coming out was actually stepping into others' pain and actually caring. And I remember the first time that hit me, it didn't break through, but it really hit me. I was 17 years old, and we went to do disaster relief for Hurricane Katrina. And I was in New Orleans, and we were driving down entire neighborhoods as far as you could see with X's on the doors. And the X told you how many bodies were found and how many this, and is it safe or not? Is there chemicals, all this? And I just, something for the first time in my life hit me, the compassion, which is to suffer with. I felt this pain with the people. It didn't land before. It's like, oh, I used to be interested. How big was it? How fast were the winds? You know, I was like interested in the power of the storm and had no connection to the pain until I was there. And I think that's another thing. It's like referencing Jesus, is it always says he saw and then he had compassion. And it's like the word is his stomach was moved, which is like,
but that, I resonate with that.
Yeah. And it's like, we need to get out and see. And I recommend to anyone, if you are not at all engaging with people who are suffering, go volunteer somewhere. Go volunteer with a youth or homeless or I don't know, the list of vulnerable people that are struggling. Find somewhere and don't just serve them, but actually sit with them and listen to them. And I think that was where I started to see, and then their pain became my pain. And I didn't just shelter myself away and block it all out and numb. My life was so numb before that. But I think what I want to share with that is, peace is not a status quo, like lack of any feeling. It's actually when we're truly living in peace in the fullness of our humanity, it's being able to experience the full range of emotion: fear, disgust, shame, joy, peace, all of the, like, experience all of them and still be able to be close with people and be present and to keep the connection going. There's like something about that we don't. A lot of people are trying to get peace by avoiding all those emotions, which then they bottle up and fester and do all that. But we need to feel those things. They're healthy. It's healthy to feel fear. It's like, you're right on the edge of a cliff. Like, it's okay to feel fear, but can you remain connected and attached to everyone around you, no matter what the emotions are? And particularly in a room, I have to do that a lot. Can I be in this room where they want to kill each other and something really intense is unfolding and people are weeping, and can I lean in and not try to get out and try to get away? Can we come closer in the midst of that intense feeling? And so
I hear what you're saying, and I love that idea, whether it's someone you know that's been through deep pain right now, or being willing to step up and encounter suffering in your community, a great step to take. What about being honest with our own pain? Is there anything that you would say that I've been honest about my fear.
Yeah.
How can I be honest about my pain?
I think that one's definitely a little tricky, because I thought I was being honest about my pain when I was 19 or 20, and I broke through. I cried. But the things I was actually crying about, now I look back and I actually see that story differently. Like, I wouldn't even consider what I was crying about true now, but it was true for me in that moment.
And did it help you move to where you needed to
get? It broke. Yeah. It got the pain out, all that.
Yeah.
And then, what people are crying about is as long as they're being as honest with themselves as they can be, it will be healing. But in a few years, you may look back and realize, I was crying because I felt betrayed, but now I realize that person didn't betray me. And actually they felt betrayed by me. And, and you realize, you just start to see it and go, actually, wow, that wasn't actually what's going on. But I needed to cry because as my body, myself felt like that was the truth at the time. And as the tears flow, I'm actually open more to the deeper honesty that sometimes I've been crying, feeling like a victim. And then I realized later I was the cause of that whole situation.
Sure.
And like, whoa. And it's all, it can shift as you go, but as much as you can express the pain you've received, it's not about whether that's the true story of what has happened. It's your truth for that moment. And you need to cry those tears and let them out so that you're then able to step into finding the way forward in that relationship, because if you try to fix a problem, but you still see it all screwed up, like you're not actually seeing the truth, you haven't cried the tears out, you're going to bring all that pain into your solutions. And we've seen that a million times. People bring their bitterness and hatred and feeling of neglect into trying to fix, and it just shatters every attempt because that needs to come out first as tears, and you might need to cry together about all that. So,
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Not an easy topic to talk about, and I think you started by saying you may not want this one.
Yep.
And yet, what a gift that it is to find the time and the space. It might not be this moment.
Yeah.
Hopefully, a moment soon to find the space to mourn, to grieve if that's necessary.
Yeah.
And to allow tears to heal our own pain and someone else's. Looking forward to the continued conversation too.
Yeah. One thing I would add to all this is I'm going all over the world. Doesn't matter where I am in the world. I can't count how many times people have said to me, "You're the only person who's ever sat with me and just listened, and you understand my pain." And I hear it all the time. I could be encouraged by that, like, nice for me, but I'm so saddened by that, because how sad is that? Some of these people are in their 60s, 70s. They've been alive for 60, 70 years. No one's ever sat with them and listened. And so I encourage everyone, get out there. There's hurting people right next to you that no one's ever listened to, and in your family, in your workplace, and wherever you are. Like, I hope I won't be hearing that anymore around the world, that we will start to all just say, you know what, I've got a few tears for you as well. And I'm willing to listen. So.
I remember hearing someone, it's a little bit different than what you're saying, but similar. And, I don't feel compelled to go walk down to the beach and find someone sitting on a bench and say, "Tell me your pain." I think that's a little bit potentially not the right step.
No.
But what I did do was I prayed a prayer that said, if this is true, if there are people out there, I'm willing to be the one to listen. And I make myself available. And I tell you what, people close to me, strangers, just that intention in my heart to be available made all the difference. And I think that's a great takeaway too. If your heart's moved toward this, if you've had the chance to grieve and you've found that healing, just making that intention in your heart. I'm available. And
you might not even need to make it intentionally. People will come to you. Because it just started happening. Once I broke through in my own grief, people just started grieving around me and telling me stuff. And they never did for years and years of my life. No one ever came to me when they were sad. And it was like, oh, wow. It's a subconscious recognition of, you're someone I can do this with, and you won't hurt me in the process. So,
Thanks so much, Zach. A lot to think about. You started this by talking about the fact that we may not want to go there. And I don't find it easy. I could go have a cry myself right now, but I do find it valuable. And for those of you listening, I hope you did too. We're looking forward to continuing this journey with you.